And the interesting thing is, it's not just people that we may think are economically challenged. People with a pretty good income have an issue with the budgeting
absolutely,
piece.
absolutely.
Oh, absolutely.
So
Definitely.
that's why it's good that there is no set income limit. There is a limit, as Rachel has said, around some of the services that they might be eligible for, but the financial literacy piece is always going to be necessary. So it's going to help feed into a couple of our programs.
That's fantastic. Good
How,
stuff.
how are you proposing to identify individuals that will come into these centers? Is it just open to the public, or is going to be some need, a manner, or way of identifying individuals? How's that going to occur?
Each site is very unique to its own as well. And so, like in Perry County, there's already a waiting list.
Oh, wow.
So there's people that are already becoming aware of it just through the services at each of these sites already.
Okay.
So each site is doing some of their own promotional pieces, but also we're going to be trying to do more advertising and things like that to get the word out.
Okay.
But also through the Money in Your Pocket campaign, which United Way has helped to facilitate. We've been asking people when they come in to get their taxes done if they would be interested in something like this. And so it kind of takes them to the next step as well through that.
Yeah, great. And the Money in Your Pocket campaign was like a free tax service for persons. That's been very successful.
Yes.
I think Heidi Newhouse always mentions something like over $3 million have come back into the community as a result of that. It's good stuff, great stuff. Yeah. And actually, you Community Action Commission was involved with Money in Your Pocket at one time. Is that
We
right?
had that program for several years.
Okay. Yes.
And now this year it's turned over now to
United Way. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
Yes.
that's right. Okay, I remember that. Yes, indeed. In fact, I think you were on the show once to talk about that long a while
Was
back.
it? Might
Yes.
have been.
Might
Okay.
have been.
Yes,
All right.
yes, indeed. Okay. So the prosperity centers then are coming into play because of the tough economic times we have. We're understanding that people need to find information and they don't always know where to go.
That's right.
Yes.
So are there going to be more like classes, or how do you think that the Community Action Commission will roll out its prosperity center? Will it be more of a class or just a drop-in center?
I think it's probably going to start out as a class
Okay.
because the first thing we're going to look at is the financial literacy piece.
Uh-huh.
And that right now, we're going to model that one after the one that New Hope is doing, which is the
FDIC
the FDIC
program.
program. And I sat in on one of them. It's very interesting. It does not take a lot of time. I think the class might have been several hours.
What is
So
FDIC?
the what's the banking? The federal.
Oh, is that based
I
on
think-
that? Okay.
yeah.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Some
I can't-
people may not know. That's
Yeah.
fine.
Right,
right,
Me, I don't
right,
know,
right.
but
I
I
can't
know
remember
it's
what it's
for the
called.
banks.
Yeah, right.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, Department
It's
of
part of
Banking,
the it's
actually.
part of the bank. It's an acronym for a part of the banking
Sure, banking
system.
industry,
Yeah.
But the training itself is probably going to take about three hours, I think. But there are different modules to it. So we're going to model ours after that one. It's already designed, and we will be holding it more than likely at our center in Harrisburg. Even though we have 5, we're going to start it there. I think one key thing about it is that we will be looking to utilize volunteers to do that program. So we know that it will occur there, and because of the fact that it can be portable, we know that we can provide one in Harrisburg. We know we can provide one in Perry County. Through that office there, we have one in Middletown. We have one in Enola. We have one in Shippensburg. So because we know that the need is in those various areas,
Right.
then ours will become mobile. So we know that,
That's
and
great.
yeah, so the thing is that the tools that we'll need, they've already been developed. And it's just a matter that now we're just in the process of wrapping up some of the pieces so that we can get it started.
Nice. Very
Okay.
good. Yeah.
Now, at the Community Action Commission, when do you think you're going to move forth? In sometime in the summer as well?
Ours might be as early as the summer
All
or
right.
early fall because,
Okay.
as I said, most of the pieces that we need, we already have. We have the training piece. We have the accommodations for it. It's just a matter of looking at getting the word out, making sure that that gets out there, and to line up someone that's going to start it and keep it going. I
Right.
think that's going to be the crucial piece for us, just making sure we got a person in place. So once we have that, we can start it. And the United Way has already said that they have, I think, a couple of people that are already interested in doing it as a volunteer.
As
So-
volunteering,
good.
and people
So-
from Money in Your Pocket that are
Right.
Right,
interested
so
in
we can pull
helping
that,
with it
that
too.
group, right, and there are about
Okay.
200 people there.
Mhm.
So we just have to get that piece, get our tools in place, and I think we'll be ready.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
You know, Rachel, in your research, people made a lot of comments when the bottom started falling out of our economy, and you know, the housing industry just took a huge hit. I mean, so many folks found themselves in trouble
Yes.
financially, and folks just made off the hand comments. You know, I've heard it everywhere. Well, you know, it's like, well, they just, you know, they should have budgeted their money. They just, but it really wasn't as simple as that. At least
Yeah.
from our standpoint, there are a lot of traps out there, because when you got that many people, something's wrong.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So
Right.
what did you find in your did you find anything in your research that suggested that these are things that, you know, we need to be really concerned about from an industry and a systemic standpoint, you know, system standpoint?
I'm not really too sure. I think just from talking through the process with Tim at United Way, I think he's just helped me to understand that the need for financial education is so prominent because it isn't always just this crisis for people that like gets them in this situation. It could be a very generational type of poverty where, you know, like people have just gone on this like slow downward spiral.
But I expect that from Tim for some reason. I don't know why.
Yeah.
He's a social worker.
Yeah, so
But what
he's
I-
kind of been a little bit of my research.
But what I was
yeah.
wondering is, though, and I heard him say that before, and I don't disagree. I mean, he may be onto something there. But there's so many people who were quote unquote middle class. I mean, who found themselves
That are really
connected to the
struggling.
Bernie Madoffs of the world, who just found themselves, I mean, system-wide, too many folks who weren't in the generation thing found themselves. How did that happen? Is
Yeah.
it something that the system that we need to address from the banking industries? And I don't expect you to answer all this, but I'm just
Yeah.
wondering, did you come across anything that said, wow, we have to be really careful because people were basically trapped. They were signing off on these mortgages that they couldn't afford after a while.
Right.
But who knew at the time they signed them, right? So, you know,
Yeah, I think the only thing that I could really say is that people just weren't prepared for it or
Yeah.
weren't prepared to lose their job, and so they find themselves just kind of struggling to make ends meet because
Good
of
point.
that loss.
good point.
So
That happens.
that's the only.
Yeah, and and I like the way you phrase that because you know what, we get the job, but we're not always prepared to lose the job.
No.
And I heard people say, what would you do if you lost your job? I mean, would you have 3, 4, 5 months stashed away,
Right.
so that you could work? But we don't think like that, right? So prosperity centers will help us to look at that kind of thinking.
Yeah, and really just thinking through your finances a little bit more and thinking about the long term, because I think so often we just want to meet the crisis needs, which is kind of what we want to help people with applying for those benefits, but also wanting something more long term, like long term stability for people, and thinking through those things.
Very good.
So
Very good. Yeah, and these are free services. I think I'm
Yes.
hearing
Yeah.
free
Yeah.
services.
Yeah,
Yes,
definitely.
indeed. Yeah.
Yeah.
And with all the three, the Tri-County being serviced, people shouldn't have no excuses for not finding the
Yeah.
places. It's just a matter of getting there
Yeah.
and saying,
Yeah.
hey, let's do it.
And I think the timing of it is ideal because the economy, based on where it is now and what's happening on the federal front, and not really knowing what the budget is going to look like for 2011, 2012, it's making everybody really sit up
Yeah.
and pay attention to what really is happening in the economy. When the gas prices started increasing, which started happening years ago, then we start looking at how people start tightening their belts and doing different kind of things. I think the one thing that came out was a story they did on one man that lives in Harrisburg who decided to just park his car. And he started taking riding a bicycle to work.
Yeah.
And he says he's loved it. He's lost some weight behind it, but at the same time, he's saved on gas. So I think that it really does make you have to take stock of how you're spending your money and those things that are important to you, as well as looking at where do I now need to focus my attention. Maybe I can't go to McDonald's every day or take 3 children there every day if I don't want to cook as a treat. Well, now that treat might be once a month now.
Yeah.
But it's just a matter of just now looking at how you are handling your finances. And again, it happens to anybody based on where you are with your income, because
absolutely.
nothing is ever given. I mean,
That's
there's no
absolutely.
such thing as job security
That's
anymore.
right.
So
Amen.
now it's making everybody to really sit up and pay attention to really what's happening to the economy and how does that need to now affect how you handle your money.